Welcome back, traders and investors. We have Pran Tiku on here. He is the author of a new book called The Emerging Markets Handbook, an analysis of the investment potential in 18 key emerging market economies. Pran, how you doing?
Wonderful. How are you, Joe?
We're doing good here, doing good on our Thursday trading. Could you just, before we go into your book, just give us a little bit of your market education and background?
Well, I have been a financial advisor in Waltham, Massachusetts for about 23 years. I founded a firm called Peak Financial Management um, early in the 80s, and we've gone through both ups and downs. And I finally, at some point uh, we always invested a little bit of our money in emerging markets, but my interest became a lot more serious in 2000 as we saw the market go up a lot and then go down a lot. And so I began to look into them and seriously consider them as an asset class and began researching the entire area. This basically resulted in a book in 2008. I have to tell you that that was an impeccable timing because my book, which was called Six Sizzling Markets, was at the heyday of when we had BRIC phenomena, which is Brazil, Russia, India, and China, and everybody was interested in all these countries. And I wrote a book called Six Sizzling Markets, which covered four of those countries, but also covered Mexico and South Korea. And it came out in April of 2008. And of course, you remember what happened in September, October of that year. The world was basically falling apart. And so it was not the greatest timing for any market, including emerging markets.
So,
But my interest has continued, and new information and new markets began to show up on the radar screen, and so thereupon, I came up with the idea of writing about an expanded version of this, which covers 18 countries this time, and not just six.
okay,
So.
correct me if I'm wrong here. So you're investing in these emerging markets while you're investing in the U.S. markets, or are you just focusing on the emerging economies?
Well, the firm, Peak Financial, has been doing investing for clients for the last 25 years. So we always invested in diversified portfolios, including emerging markets, but it was always a small portion of our clients' portfolios because that's what the overall objectives call for. My personal interest in researching it and has led us to create a special strategy, which we now call Peak Emerging Strategy, and that is just focus on emerging markets. So we are managing money separately for into these emerging markets based on our research and based on our ideas that we come across.
And what are some of the emerging markets that you're looking at here for investment?
Well, the strategy that we have is very diversified, although in some sense you would call it is a concentrated portfolio. It consists of roughly 20, 25, sometimes 30 names. So, and they range, and it's based on where we see the value. It's not just based on just these 18 countries. For example, there are diverse stocks there, and it's made up of both ETFs and ADRs, and some multinational companies. Some names in this strategy are pretty well known, like Apple, which we believe is basically an emerging markets play, particularly in China. Um, there are there are there are strategies such as we have a China Consumer Exchange Traded Fund, which we believe is a better way to play China because we see the consumption as the major driver in growth in China. We have companies like Toyota, which is obvious that we're looking for growth, and a good part of their earnings are also in emerging markets. Then we have companies. We are very focused on financial companies in Latin America, for example. The banks in Latin America, such as Banco Bradesco in Brazil, Bank de Chile in Chile, and we have Bank de Colombia. And these are small banks that do phenomenal business and are very well priced. And we even have we have a HDFC Bank in India, which has had a phenomenal rise lately. And so we are very focused on consumer. If we have one theme in the strategy, that is consumption in many of these emerging market countries, including India, China, Latin America, and even in Eastern Europe.
So your strategy is like not to pick one economy and stocks the economy. What you do is you go to the different emerging markets, and you pick and choose a little bit from here and a little bit from there, and come up with a nice mix in your portfolio.
That is precisely it. If the idea, I mean, writing a book was an exercise in trying to find values and fundamental values and studying these countries in depth. But sometimes what you do in picking stocks or finding some opportunities, you have to go places where people have shunned them. I mean, a controversial name would be Russia, for example. We just initiated a position in RSX right after there was a very bad press that Russia got and market tanked right after Ukraine. So this, although Russia is not one of the top countries that I have covered in the book in terms of their fundamentals, and we're not really that optimistic about it for fundamental reasons because of their demographics and their commodity-driven economy and many other things. But there are opportunities. We even have an internet stock there called Yandex, for example, which we think is very well priced. So yeah, I think the book basically gives you the fundamentals so that you can understand what is driving many of these countries and what are the opportunities long term. But on a short term basis, many times, many of these stocks get oversold, and we try to find the opportunities to make money using that approach.
And how is the liquidity? I mean, you're running decent amount of money here when you try and go into these foreign markets. Do you ever find any problems as far as getting in and out of positions with liquidity?
It has not been a problem. We have basically stuck to larger names, and many of them are ADRs. Yeah, that has not been a problem because many of these companies have great fundamentals and great liquidity.
Okay, we're getting just out of the chat room here. I just put YNDX here. Just to end the interview, could you just give us 3 or 4 other symbols from these emerging economies that are on your radar and have some potential on the upside, and then they can read
Sure.
your book, and then they can find out the rest of them.
Okay. Yeah, we have the whole strategy. People want to know what the entire strategy is. They can very definitely email us, and we can give them what our current backdrop is. We also have a lot more information about these companies and these stocks, and we can very definitely share with people who are interested. But just to give you some quick names. Some of these are very well known. For example, we just initiated a position in Coach, which is a consumer name, has been beaten down, and we think it's a good place to be. And
Okay.
the symbol is COH. We have a bank. I just talked about Bank of Colombia, CIB. We have China Consumer, CHIQ, which is an ETF and just broadly diversifies. If somebody didn't want to pick stocks, this is a good way to get exposure to Chinese consumer. We even like the Korean market, and we have a very broadly based ETF there, which has the symbol EWY.
Okay.
We just initiated a position I just mentioned in Infosys, which is a outsourcing a computer and services outsourcing company from India, has been beaten down because of the strong rupee there, and its symbol is INFI and is traded on New York Stock Exchange. Mondelez is MDLZ. We are very, very happy with that, and it's done extremely well for us. Again, PBR, which is very well-known name, Petrobras, has been beaten down because of the troubles in Brazil, and Brazil's economy is slowing down. But we think its valuation is pretty low. As a long term, it's a great play.
Okay.
So that gives you some ideas.
Yeah, that
of
was a lot.
many of the.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, we've had Pran Tiku on. He is the author of a new book, The Emerging Market Handbooks, trying to give investors a different way to play the market. Pran, thanks a lot for coming on today. We certainly like to have you on again.
Thank you so much. Okay. Bye, Joe.
Bye-bye.